Now there are 5 adults.
How?
5 adults and 2 small children, and he just looked up and he was gone.
How?
Because everybody thought
he was gone for an hour and change before we found him. They found him where we realized he was gone. He was 2 booths down dancing at the drum line. Took him an hour and a half to find him. It's one of my mother's worst days. You've met my mother. She is neo mom. Like, she's on it. Okay? So what are you doing? Where are you going? Who you with? Why? When you coming back? Okay? So it can happen to anyone. You, sir, are also not fallible. It can happen to anyone. It is the reality of being a parent. You are an adult as well as trying to look after this child, and I'm trying to do 2 things at once because no one in the society believes in not multitasking. And she went to the zoo with 5 kids, all under the age of 10, right?
But had something happened to that child, she would have then sued the zoo.
Right. I mean, I don't think she would have been right to sue the zoo. I would not have been on her side then at all. No. This was a terrible accident. I think the zoo should do better, and I think you should do better. We all make mistakes.
I'm in agreement with that. I'm just saying I feel like there should be some sort of consequence.
We still don't know whether or not she will do a lawsuit, because there's still that chance that she might because of the access problem to the animal.
I mean, had they allowed those, had it been
But the lawsuit might be just that she wants that fixed. It might not be a monetary lawsuit.
No,
I don't believe
because who knows if they're fixing that? That might be an issue that they don't care about, and there hasn't been an issue.
There is no regulation. Each zoo in each state does whatever the hell it wants. That's what I think it should be. I think they should look at the zoo that has the least number of accidents and then require that everybody does what they do. Now, the thing you fall into is funds. Not every zoo makes the kind of money that a San Diego zoo makes or that a national zoo makes. Okay, so they don't have the money to do all of that extra stuff.
Right.
So then what do? So now you've got an enclosure that's obviously not safe. I don't have any money to fix it. So what now? And I mean, and we are complaining about the incredible infrastructure problem in this country.
Right.
And it is on every level.
Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange Live.
The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange.
starts now. Is the clip playing? Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live on BigExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate. We're here today with with an author. Am I saying it? Lewanda?
Yes.
Lewanda. She'll be discussing her books, her career as an artist, as an author and an artist, and an entrepreneur, all in one capsule. And remember, this year's topic is hashtag Let's Go Get It. I want to give individuals and sidebar, this show this year will feel like the Nate reality show. I just said out loud for the third time, and it really doesn't seem real yet. I'll be 35 in a few months, and it still sounds like I'm outside of my head talking about someone else. Doesn't seem like me, because I just was 25 like 2 days ago. And what happened? Like I slept that long. But this year is really going to be a year for me to really focus on my goals. I made a career out of helping others do what it is that they do best, and I got good at that. And I really want to refocus that energy. Still being open and welcoming to everyone, but really giving everybody that opportunity to still do what they do, but really focusing on myself. So all the advice that I'm giving you are things that I'm implementing and fine-tuning in my own life. I've been able to meet a lot of artists and entrepreneurs and community leaders over the almost 4 years of doing the show, and I really want to take that and really give it back to you all while using it for myself, speaking over myself in that moment. So this year will feel like the reality show. I will be doing a lot of things that I never did before or wasn't open to doing. So I'll be doing some of those things live on air, and you'll hear about it, and you'll be able to go to our social media page. Just in terms of meeting people, I ain't jumping off no bridges or nothing. But we do have a bungee jumping thing coming up at the end of the year. Somebody asked me, and it just became a part of a running joke that we had, and now it's a possibility. So either bungee jumping or skydiving, and I don't know which one of my insurances is going to allow me to do that. But so doing things that are just not necessarily bucket list, but just doing things that are outside of what the norm of possibilities are. So I'm really ready. I'm really ready to just do it. I play it safe. I feel comfortable in the pocket sometimes, and I don't really jump outside of that too often. And playing it safe can get you far, but does far mean where you want to go? And sometimes playing it safe gets you totally off of your course, and then a course that feels like, looks like, smells like, tastes like what you want, but often it's missing like a big chunk of what your actual purpose is. So this year, definitely look out for some of those things, and I'm kind of scared to even say it out loud because then it has to happen, but we have to speak things into existence. So today's guest, like I said, Lewanda.
Wanda's fine.
Wanda. I have to practice names in my head because I'm crazy with them. But I guess we have a caller already. Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for calling the Artist Exchange Radio Show.
Yeah, it kind of breaking up over there. I'm sorry.
So we're gonna call you back actually. So we're gonna hang up right now, and I'm gonna call you right back in the next segment. So definitely stay tuned, stay locked in for me. So I'll open this with just some recaps of what we've been talking about over the last couple shows. So this is our 8th show into the new year, and I wanted to start asking a couple questions. Yesterday we focused on this surrendering to the possibility of rock bottom. And nobody wants to get to rock bottom. No, it's not like a destination people like booking. But when you are doing everything but what you're supposed to do, you often have to hit rock bottom in order to refocus yourself if you're not paying attention. Like rock bottom is something that's not often a choice. It's not. Sometimes we subconsciously make it a choice, but we don't realize that it has to happen if we're not in our lane. And yesterday's conversation, some of the feedback that we got was people don't understand just how to get back from it, because often when you hit rock bottom, you're in that hole and you're kind of clawing and you're clawing and you're clawing, and there's nothing to hold on to. There's no handlebars, there's no rope, there's no ladder at rock bottom. You have to really create a way to get out of it, and that is in line with what you're supposed to be doing for you to get out of that hole, or you will stay in it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw that first question over to Wanda and ask you, you can be as transparent as you would like. Have you hit rock bottom, and what was that period of getting out of it?
I definitely have hit rock bottom before. Mm-hmm. I was a young mom.
Okay.
Well, I guess to certain people, I was 23 when I had my daughter. Mm-hmm. But at the time that I had her, at the time that I had her, mm-hmm. I hadn't actually finished college. I had to put college on hold mm-hmm. Because I had her, and I was working just jobs just to pay the bills, but they were jobs that didn't pay much, mm-hmm. and they were jobs where
2 and 3 at a time.
Yes, like high school degree jobs.
Right.
So you find yourself bills coming in. You have this young baby, and on top of that, I'm from a small town. Mm-hmm. So I'm from a small town on the shore, Cambridge, Maryland.
Okay.
So for me, for what I wanted to do, moving home was not an option. just based off of what I wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with anybody who decided to stay home or work. It's just that for my vision and what I wanted to do, I had to be in a city where it was possible. So basically, I had to just kind of figure out, you know, how to get from out of rock bottom. And my first, the first thing I did was, okay, you got to finish college, because in order for you to get the job, you have to have the degree. So that was the step I took. I went back to school. I finished my bachelor's, I finished my master's, and then I started, you know, applying to different jobs. Started corporate America in 2005. My daughter was like 3 or 4 years old, and it just went from there. So once I got to that point, you know, but it was a struggle getting there.
Is it in terms of the struggle? Because sometimes we, especially when we're out of it, we can bullet point the struggle. But those moments where it didn't seem possible to raise a child and do this 20-page paper along with the other 4 or 5 classes you had, and still work and still maintain city living, and just keep it all together, like those moments are more significant to me, because it really teaches me it. Because normally the bullet points are normally like, okay, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, I got to do those things. But the in between of those bullet points is the part that people get hung up on.
It's definitely. I mean, for a person like me, I kept a lot of it away from, you know, thank goodness my mom and my you know, my mom's like 2 hours away. So I basically moved away, and my family was here, and then I'm here. So I didn't have the luxury of dropping my daughter off to my mom while I worked and things like that. So I kind of had to make a way. Luckily, my aunt, I have an aunt who lives where I live, my Aunt Pat. You know, luckily I could take my daughter there when somebody was home, because they work as well. And just be able to, you know, go to school and work and things like that. But it was hard. I mean, you're talking eviction notices, electric shutoffs, and oh gosh, the baby needs this and she needs that. You know, but I always tried to, I didn't want my mother worrying. So every time my mom was like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you know, everything's fine." She don't know I got a week to come up with this rent money.
She knows. But often they because my mom is like that. She doesn't really. She'll ask me, "Is everything okay?" And they know your response time. They know the hesitation, but they often want you to either come to them or just, you know, express it. And often we are really stubborn and bullheaded, and we want to keep it all inside instead of, because often we not even, I think at certain points, certain people aren't necessarily looking for a blank check. It's just sometimes you want to release that, and everybody's not willing to take that in.
That's
you don't want
absolutely
that.
true.
You know, I remember somebody told me when I was young, and it really hurt me in the long run, because I wasn't transparency doesn't mean everybody need to know all your business. But in certain situations, it's very important for you to be that authentic. And it hurt me because the person's advice to me was, don't tell people that you are having a hardship, because it creates a bias, which is true. So you don't go into a job interview saying, "Hey, I really need a job, my lights are off." Like, you don't create that, because then they think you will steal or something like that. But it hurt me, because the moments that I could have gotten a blessing, it was blocked by my silence.
Or you could have blessed someone else. Sometimes being transparent can bless somebody else, or just show someone that, gosh, I'm not the only one. So I think, you know, to your point, you know, when you've hit rock bottom, it's you don't have to tell everybody your business, but for people to know that you were once where they are, and to see that you were able to get over it, I think that's a powerful story.
Is that kind of like the build up to your professionalism, or is it the foundation that you sit on? Not so much, I don't ever want to be back there again, but it's your motivation?
My motivation was, so I didn't have a struggle growing up. I had a very, very wonderful childhood. I'm a country girl. My parents, you know, did well for themselves. We weren't rich, but I didn't have a struggle like some people had.
Right.
But with saying that, I did have a passion for writing, and I've been writing since I was since like 12. So I won this particular writers contest, okay? And you had to pretty much pay your own way to get to Chicago to accept the award and all. My parents didn't have that kind of money, you know? So, and then during that time, they're like, well, how do you even get to the airport? Because where I'm from, there's no buses, trains, subways. We don't have that kind of stuff. It's, you have a highway, you have fields. So they're like, oh, no, that's just too much. So I had to forfeit my award to somebody else just because my parents didn't have the money or the means to get me to Chicago. Wow. So in that moment, I said, one day I'm going to be a famous author and everybody's going to know my name because I had to give up this award to give to somebody else. Those blessings in life, because I call them blessings because it really teaches you. It either hardens you or it teaches you. Yeah. Or it boosts your morale. So harden or boosts your morale. And I remember those things happening. And I've seen that happen to other people. And it could crush your life. Oh, yeah. And really take you off of the course of where you're supposed to be. Yeah. Or just motivate you to get that moment back again. Like in that moment, how did you feel not being able to get to, because that probably meant like I'm gonna make it. That probably was your I'm gonna make it moment. I felt a few different ways. I was a little upset at my parents. I'm like, really? Like, come on, y'all. Like, I'm trying to get to Chicago to get this award. But think about this. I'm not young enough to go by myself. Right. So that means not only do I have to go, either my mom or dad has to go. They're like, we don't have the money. We ain't fooling with the city because we don't like the city. But now that I'm older, they did the best they could. Right. But I felt defeated. I felt that's big to a 12-year-old. This was like a national writer, writers all over the country who submitted short stories. And little old me from a small town wins out of people from New York and LA and places like that. That was big. So to win that and not be able to actually win it, it's like you win it, but you lose. Yeah. So I was hurt and I was upset, and that was motivation for me. I was like, I'm gonna do it again. Right. One day I'm gonna be known. I'm gonna do it again. Now a whole bunch of stuff happened in between because I, didn't write my first book until like 2016. So but I always knew that I was going to continue with writing from that point. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Don't forget, if you're listening live, either on our Facebook or on our Facebook Live, you can definitely invite people or share it out and let people know what we're talking about here. Or you can go to YouTube if you're not, if you're just listening to us. You can either go to YouTube or Facebook and actually watch us live. So we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show in a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
It's time for Flashback.
Now I'm not going to say all Aries. This Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com.
You know what I'm saying? I enjoy making you guys laugh. I enjoy you buy a ticket to see me, plan to laugh. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have you on the floor. I'm going to interact with you guys. I'm an entertainer, man. So I don't know if you know this, Nate. I used to strip.
Yeah, he told us.
Yeah, they used to call me Little Thunder. So I've been in the entertainment business for a while.
Foolish.
What the hell? I'm trying to be for real, and she called me foolish. This is what you're running here, Nate? This is how you run your show?
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Just a bit outside radio show.
There is one glaring stat that I read about while watching the games over the weekend. New York Yankees went 22 straight innings with at least one strikeout.
Really?
That's a major league record for the postseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting statistic.
It is. And then when you think about it, it's like, okay, that, to me, that's like a big reason why, they're losing right now.
You are now listening to Just a Bit Outside, the sports radio show at BeExposedRadio.com. Come join us every Monday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, or BeExposedRadio.com.
So we had a lot of things going on.
Mother's Day, Major League Baseball, pink bats, pink outfits.
Yeah. They certainly did the mothers good. They don't show them justice. Like Jimmy said, the pink bats, cleats, all types of pink highlights in the major leagues. The Orioles were swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Wah, wah.
The Kansas City Royals. Thank you, Eric. Kansas City Royals they're like one of the worst teams in the Major League Baseball right now. Yeah, so that was a little tough.
Yeah, so the Orioles no longer have the top record. It belongs to the Washington Nationals now.
Yeah, so that was tough. So hopefully they'll get back on track with the next series. Maryland, we got some local sports, collegiate to report. The Maryland lacrosse. Let's shout out the Maryland lacrosse team. They are in the NCAA tournament, and Hey,
this is Mark, Just a Bit Outside on BeExposedRadio.com. Listen to us every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Y'all ready? Yo, who at the door? Let him in. Yo, come in, have a seat on McLean's couch. We'll host the Brahma Bowl and Co-Ed Bliss. Talking about real topics with a therapeutic twist. It's on every Tuesday.
You're listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Artist
Is what it is. Radio show.
Go ahead. All right, listen. All right, say.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate. HullyWood is in here today, but we're here with Miss Wanda.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a little backstory on who she is and how she became an author, but now I'll talk about who are you today? Who is Wanda today in terms of the business? Not necessarily the author yet, but just the business of who you are. Like, what do you do outside of being an author?
So I work in corporate America. Been there for a long time. Assistant vice president for a trust company. So that's my 9 to 5, so to speak. And then when that's over, I'm a mom. So I'm usually
full-time. Yeah,
running the child somewhere, practice, or with her friends or something like that, or just spending time with her. We actually just came back from a mommy-daughter trip in L.A.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and then every spare moment I have, I'm writing. Like, I just really love writing. Like, I barely watch TV unless it's Thursday. Like, I don't miss Scandals for nothing, nobody. So,
was that this week that this passed, was that the crossover episode?
I missed it because I was in LA. I DVR'd it though. I gotta watch when I get back because this is the last season.
I just saw all of the hoopla around them crossing.
Yeah, that's gonna be big.
So I'm not a TV watcher.
Yeah.
I woke up one day and I said, why am I paying Comcast so much money? And I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
And I said, why do I do this?
Yeah.
And my TV has not been on since then. And I think that's been almost 2 years. And I just don't enjoy what has been put out there in terms of TV. Well, at that time, TV, because it kept being like the same thing, and it was like a system, and it just. Anyway, so the business of who you are is secondary. Well, kind of prominent, really, to you being an author. Can you discuss how you got into actually publishing your work and producing it?
So basically, I went to visit my parents one weekend, and I had met up with an old friend of mine that I've known since like 3rd grade. And I was telling him what I wanted to do. His name's Shane Bell. He's actually an artist. He's a rapper. He's an artist. And so I was like, I've been wanting to do this since, forever. And he's like, oh, I know an author. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He was like, I went to school with her sister. He's like, here, I'll give you her information. So I reached out to her, and her name's Tanise. And she's like, well, I don't know if you want to try to come on my label because you don't want to write urban fiction. And this is an urban fiction label. So I was like, okay. I like reading it and stuff, but I just knew I wouldn't be it's just not something that I want to do. So I'm more like romance suspense. So I told her I wanted to self-publish. So she was like, okay, this is what you need to do. So she put me in touch with a young lady for a book cover. Her name's Ty. And so Ty said, oh, well, I'm starting my own publishing company. And I was like, oh, really? She was like, yeah. She was like, I mean, I know you want to self-publish, but, let's see how it goes. And that's how I ended up with her. And luckily, I had a publisher who allowed me to have freedom, do what I wanted to do, just as long as I was giving books. She never tried to interfere with the content of what I was writing. And, she just...
And that's unheard of.
Yeah, and she just gave me the freedom. And, that was that.
So, explain to me how the publisher gets paid, outside of course, selling books, but is that their primary source?
For some it is. I don't know any publishers who work and publish.
Right.
It's not to say that you can't do it, but publishing is a hard job if you have a lot of people. I think we were up to like 27 authors at one time. Right. So they get a percentage of, you sign a contract, and they get a percentage of your royalties, depending on what that is. I guess that's something, that can be negotiated, or I was happy with the percentage I was given, but I guess if you're not, you can always negotiate. But when you've got 27 authors and you're getting a percentage of each of their royalties, it could be a good business. Yeah, it's definitely a good business. But I always say sometimes everything isn't about the money.
Right.
You have to have a love for the industry. You definitely have to have a love for your authors.
Or they start going directly just for the money, and that's when it gets.
Because you'll just start putting out content that's not good content just to get paid. So it's like with any business. You can either have good work ethic and be about the business to make the profit, or you can be more about the profit and your business is lacking, and at some point won't survive. So it's
hobby versus
exactly.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Basically. Luckily, most of the publishers I know are about their business. They're professional. They're about their coins as well.
Because a lot of money, them are authors themselves. I'm finding that a lot of the smaller publishing companies, they're run by authors. So they understand it. So real quick, give us your social media where we can find you at before we go to this next commercial break.
You can find me on Facebook under Lewanda Jackson, Lewanda Jackson. And you can find me on Instagram at Maryland Girl 1979, and that's at MD Girl 1979.
So we'll be back with Miss Wanda, the author, when we return to the Artist Exchange Radio Show only on BeExposedRadio.com. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to get yourself noticed? Well then, why not sponsor us? There are lots of different options to choose from commercial spots and on-air shoutouts, to interviews, and even putting your logo on our website. Don't miss these great opportunities to get noticed. Check out our sponsorship packages on our Facebook page or on our website, BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Monty from Talk Lately. I want y'all to sit back and listen to this flashback. We be tripping.
I mean, really, but I mean, he might have. I got him maybe jacking her up.
The kids said he did it.
But this is Floyd Mayweather punching her head repeatedly, and like she doesn't have like brain damage.
No, she didn't have brain damage. I don't think he was hitting her like that. Or he probably was like, say something else. Say something else.
That
he probably wasn't like tagging her.
Right.
He probably was just like, and the kids was like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy.
Why do they have the accent? Why? Why do his kids have that accent?
I just pictured them looking like African. I didn't want to have to admit that. I don't know what they're going to do about my mouth, but just check out the show every Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's more of the same right here on BeExposedRadio.com. You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
We're rewarding you for something you already do, listening to us. It's radio loyalty, and it's an easy way for you to get free stuff. All you do is sign up. Go ahead and click the banner now. You'll earn points as you listen. Points you can trade in for great products and services in the Radio Loyalty store. You can earn even more points when you share your favorite station with friends on Facebook and Twitter. Radio Loyalty. It's free to sign up, so click the banner to join now.
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And
exactly.
Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show. It's me, your host, Nate, the Greats, and I'm here with Wanda Jackson.
Yep, Wanda's
I gave the home government. But we gotta know what to put on those checks when they sign them.
Yes.
So we're talking to her about her being an author, and the last segment we got into how she actually got into the business of being an author. Because as artists and entrepreneurs, we forget that it's a business at the end of the day. And working with publishing companies could be really a little tricky because I've gotten, with all the artists that we've been able to interview here, I've gotten horror stories. I've gotten, this is the best thing, and this is the worst thing, and everything in between. And it really just depends on the situation and the person that you're dealing with, and how you go about researching.
Yeah, it definitely, you're right. I've heard a lot of horror stories. That's why I said I was lucky. With the one I signed with, but you definitely.
It sounded like you were being patient. You wasn't just.
Yeah.
Trying to grab at anything that looked like.
Exactly. And ask questions. I sent her when she questioned if I would want to sign with her. I asked a lot of questions. We had a phone call. She answered all the questions I had, and I was like,
what were some of the questions?
The first question was, are you going to try to tell me how to write? Because I want to write my own thing. I don't want anybody taking away from my creativity.
Right.
The second question was, I like to jump on different topics. Like this here is like a romance. But
so
then
this is...
That's called The Mistaken Twin.
Okay.
And then this one, it's a fictional story, but it lacks like the romance, the steamy sex scenes and all that. This is more just about stuff that's going on today.
Okay.
And she was like, yeah. She was like, you're fine. So then I was like, hey, okay. And then how much are you going to take? Because that's important.
You get out of it?
Yeah. But she answered the questions, and then when I got the contract, I reviewed the contract. I had an attorney review the contract, and then that was it. But I have heard a lot of horror stories.
Because people are so eager to just get something out there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to come across a lot of artists that I've known, and you get to a certain age or a certain point of the career that you're chosen, and it's not happening. So now I got to start doing whatever I got to do to get to that point. And you start doing things like cranking out a book every month and trying to keep up with the demand of what you think this is, or fit the image of what it is, and then you're not really thinking about long term, how will this benefit me and how will it help me to move forward in terms of what I want for my overall goals.
Yeah.
So in choosing the right and doing the research, because I don't hear a lot of individuals talk about doing research or asking questions. Oh, you publish? I got a book. I need it published.
Oh,
yeah. And then they sign their name away, and then now they're giving 80% of every single book, and then they're in one of those 360 type deals where they're actually having to work harder as a person with a publishing company versus if I'd have just printed this book myself and, you know, which is hard too, but just imagine if you didn't read all the fine print.
Yeah, and everybody doesn't have the means. Self-publishing, you know, not only do you need to have the time and you know, the patience, but you have to have the money.
Right.
I mean, you're forking up everything on your own, and you know, signing with a
quality
publisher
determines how much you paid.
Right, and you know, the benefit of signing to a publisher is you don't have to really worry about any of that. You probably only just really pay for like your marketing stuff and things like that.
So break down, what does a publishing company do for you outside of just give you a check at the end of every quarter or every month?
It depends. For, you know, some of the smaller and up and coming publishing companies, they're trying to build their brand just like you as an author is trying to build your brand. So it's like you guys are working hand in hand.
Right.
So not only do they publish the book and all of that good stuff, but they, you know, they reach out to people they know and they use their resources to say, hey, this is my company, these are the authors on my team, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
So they're working to promote both their brand as well as the brand of the authors. Now, if you're talking a Penguin or a Random House, something on that scale, then publishing companies like that, they're marketing you both domestic and internationally. I mean, you're seeing stuff on billboards. It's just everything. They have media people. Like, it's just on so much of a larger scale.
Right.
But the expectation is probably a little more. I'm quite sure a Random or a Penguin is probably going to tell you what you need to write because they want to make sure
because they have specific
sales.
Markets
yeah,
and media and outlet partners that they're dealing with that want a certain type of thing,
a certain type
that's normally
of book.
Commercial and mainstream.
Exactly. So when you're signed to a more independent publishing company, they give you more leeway with what you can write, and they're not trying to tell you what you can write and all, versus some of the big ones. You know,
because the only difference I see in the larger companies is you're more so by the fact that they're even working with you says something about your writing.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't mean that somebody who's self-publishing or working with a smaller company doesn't have something equal. They just have more markets to be able to show you that. And it's not a guarantee that you're going to do it. You may get a bestseller, you know, accolade or you know, sticker on your book or your resume, but it doesn't necessarily determine your worth as a long-term author.
It doesn't.
And that's a lot that you're giving and sacrificing to be able to be with a company like that.
Exactly. And bestseller doesn't always mean best book.
No,
so
it
you have bestsellers that, it's about sales for them. There's so many talented authors, and I'm friends with so many authors that are deserving of accolades like that. But of course, you know, if the numbers aren't there, and when you're on a larger scale, I mean, and you have
your book can say anything.
Yeah.
I used to do that. Like, I would only go to there to get books, and I'd be like, this is an urban novel that just had a celebrity face on it, so it's best-selling.
Yeah, it's just really about about the sales.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, take 50 Shades of Grey, for instance. Huge book, movie
Horrible
now.
book.
Some people loved it. Some people didn't get it. They're like, what? This is the bestseller? So, it's, you know,
it was
depends.
the hype. Like, if you put enough hype around it, then it is everything that you think it's going to be.
And it was taboo. Most countries are a little more sexually liberated than what the United States is. You know, she's from an area where, you know, they talk freely about BDSM and all that kind of stuff. In the U.S.,
She don't sound like she was experienced.
You know?
She don't really sound like she knew what she was.
Well, you
she
know,
watched this on TV or something.
Well, you know, the questions came into her husband, like, do you really have a red room of pain? Because she's married.
Oh, okay.
And so people were thinking that
that's who she
this was what her and her husband were doing. But he was like, nah, you know, that was
So that's a question for me, too, in terms of you being a writer. How true to your life do you stay? Like, how, or I'll say, how in line with your experiences are you?
So every book has a piece of me, some more than others. My first series, it's called Secrets, Lies, and the Cover-Up. And at the time, I was going through just some tough times in a relationship. And
that's a real PC way of saying it.
So I kind of took that emotion that I was feeling and poured it into the main character with how she was feeling in her marriage.
Right.
And then I released A Fatal Love Affair. That book is about like a hit woman. That's more like my feisty side and my sarcastic side. Then I had Two Men, One Heart. That book is similar to a situation that I was in. Falling for His Wife was a situation that I was in my marriage, at my previous marriage at the time.
So she has lived life.
I have. This book here doesn't.
She's real professional about telling this.
Well, I'm so private that I won't actually say, yeah, this book is my life. I'm gonna say
real quick, that is crazy to me, because most of the authors that I've gotten to meet, like, I'm a really private person. I am not. So how did you get from telling your business in a book to being so? Is it a way for you to be able to live it out without having to write a memoir, or?
Well, I mean, think about it. If you write a book and you put your life story in there or some of your business, readers don't automatically know it's your story.
It's assumed, but it's not.
It's kind of assumed, but that's why I always say certain parts of the book, you know, that's it.
You don't even know
that's it. But I have had people say, is this your life story? And I'm like, some of it, yeah. And then depending on who the person is, I'll say, yes, that happened to me, and I wrote this because I want, like, Falling for His Wife was a book about basically a woman who was in an abusive marriage, and she wanted to get out.
Right.
And so I wrote that book for women who are in that situation and feel as though they can't move on and that they can't get out of it.
Right.
So in instances like that, I'll say, hey, you know, this is why I wrote it or whatever. But other than that, nah. It's just
Is it something that you want to talk about, or is it a topic matter or a specific story that may not have happened to you, but it's just something that you feel is on your heart to write about?
That's this.
Okay.
Land of the Free.
So tell us about that book then.
So this book basically, when Trump started running for office, you know, I just started.
This man has brought.
I just started seeing all the negativity and the comments, and I was pissed. So what do I do when I'm pissed? I hop on a laptop. And so I wrote this book. And so this book, the characters, it's a fictional story, but the characters, you know, it could be your aunt, your co-workers, and it touches on race, religion, politics, homosexuality, the dynamic of the African-American home. You know, there's a man in here who's married to a woman. he seems to think African American women are too opinionated, we're too independent, and we need to just shut up and stay at home and do what we're supposed to do.
Now, do you humanize that type? So specifically, that type of information, do you humanize them, or is it just based on a perspective that you have on that type of individual?
No. Basically, I took comments I would read, things I've heard people say, and I did both sides.
Okay.
So there's a white man in here who despises any other race. Black, Mexican, doesn't matter. There's a black man in here who loves white women, but his parents were ex-Black Panthers. He can't bring a white woman home to meet his parents. So he's married to a black woman, but he would much rather be with a white woman. You know.
You see that a lot.
So it's just the man who's racist. He doesn't like, you know, the gay community. He doesn't know his son is gay. Okay. So I just threw out different things.
So each chapter kind of goes over a different type of scenario.
Yeah, you see the bias, and you see the racism in the characters, and you kind of think about what's going on today, and it shows you how this stuff is passed down. So Mark has 2 children. His grandfather was a member of the KKK. So this kind of stuff has been passed down to him, you know, like one of the excerpts in here.
He was born into it, basically.
Yes. Then one of the excerpts in here, he's watching a black man speak, and he says, I don't hear what he's saying. I'm too busy imagining him with the noose around his neck, like the images my grandfather used to show me. So in his mind, he's just going by what he was taught. This is the way of life, you know. And so I wanted to show that. And I also raised the question, think about some of the things that you were taught when you were brought up. What things did your parents tell you about white people? What things did your parents tell you about people who were gay and different things? You know, take that and really take a look at yourself and think about, because you don't have to literally come out and say, oh, I hate white people to be racist. You could, or I hate black people.
It's worse than you actually saying it.
Right, or I hate black people. Your certain way of thinking can kind of cause you to take a step back and be like, ooh, yeah, that's not right.
Because your thought manifests itself in laws that are passed.
Yeah.
And you doing things that inwardly, under the radar, kind of shun a specific person. I would rather for you to say you hate me because I see it coming, and nothing else you do can really affect me, because then your actions won't be as severe as if you're just pining over this hate. And then you're making rules and regulations at your organization or wherever you're working or in your community that are detrimental to those people that you hate.
Right.
And that's when it becomes hate.
But think about why somebody might hate you. Why do you think if you're walking down the street and you have a hoodie on, why do you think this white man in a suit who's walking towards you might hate you as a black man?
And that's the part, and we've had conversations with individuals. I had a couple of people who have been pulled over or stopped, and I've been watching a lot of clips, and it to me, and I have an unpopular opinion about this, because a lot of that person's experience is tied into how they feel about you. And it's not necessarily their fault. I was born into this type of hatred. I went to a Catholic school here, and it was predominantly white, 90% white, and a lot of the young men wanted to befriend with me and the other 5 black people that went to the school.
Yeah.
But in them being friends with us, it still was their relationship to their parents and what they were raised to believe still came into effect, because we would see it when they would get mad or when it was some type of conflict, and we would see it come out, or just their leisure just comments. So we would see those things happen, but a lot of it has nothing to do with me wanting to hate you. It's just, what do I know different from that?
Exactly.
And common sense isn't necessarily common, and it's not really directed towards me knowing. I don't know that this is necessarily wrong. It's just the way life is.
And in some situations, it's the way you were taught. I mean, I grew up. I'm 38 years old. I'll be 39 in June. So
be confident about that. I'm speaking about people.
So I know, youngin. You told me your age. I was like, what?
But instead you wake up and you're like, how did I do that?
But I grew up in an era where, you know, my grandparents told me to be cautious of white people. Yep. They don't like you. So they do not like you.
And you probably met a lot of them in that
I had a best friend who was white. Her name was Tara.
You loving on each other, and you still like side nodding her at the same time, and waiting for something to happen.
That's the thing. Like, even though that's what I was told, I never, you know, she was my best friend. Right. She didn't treat me differently. Her parents didn't treat me differently or anything. I don't know what she was taught. You know, I was young at the time, and I think when you're young, you don't, even though your parents and your grandparents tell you that. When you're having fun, you're like, oh, I'm about to go over her house. You're not thinking about the possibility that her parents are like, yeah, she can come over, but see,
that's the flip side of it, because either you're still so naive that you don't know what your grandparents are, what or why they're saying it, or you just become a robot to their upbringing and you just do what they say do. So you're hating somebody and don't understand why I hate this person or why I'm mad at this person. And the person like, did I do something to you?
Yeah, they came from a different time. Right. So in their mind, they're like,
in that area that you grew up in, that's not so, you know, not in line with what they thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's different now. Right. You know, I don't teach my daughter that. I do teach her you know, because of her color, it may be harder for her. Some instances, it will be harder for her. But, you know, she's raised to love who she loves. I don't care what the man looks like. Some may disagree, because, you know, I see a lot of things on, you know, interracial dating and stuff like that. But this is my baby, and this is what I teach.
But those are personal fears.
Those are personal. Exactly. Me personally, I just tell my daughter, listen, you love who you love. But knowing that if you love someone of a different race, that doesn't mean their parents and family is going to support it. Right. You get what I'm saying? So you just have to raise your kids to make their own decisions, but be smart about it. You know, of course, she's a black woman. I have to raise her as a black woman. I have to teach her our history, and I have to teach her that the stuff she's learning in school, half of the stuff is inaccurate. You know, they don't really teach our history, and so you know, that responsibility falls on me. And you know, it's just something every parent should do.
So what we have to do right now is go to another commercial break. We got to pay some bills, so we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigExposedRadio.com with Miss Wanda. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Join the club that gives you stuff. Hey, thanks! Radio Loyalty. Here's how it works. Just click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then, you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple, right? Radio Loyalty. Click that banner to join now.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I thought you was going to have my money today.
Man, it is what it is.
Then last week you told me your wife was cooking.
Man, it is what it is.
Then again, I don't think I want your wife cooking because you don't like it.
Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio. It is what it is, 9/11.
Yo, listen, our principal used to put, we talk in the cafeteria, he would put us on that wall, and he going down the line.
That, right? I was at Lamel Middle School. I had a principal by the name Mr. Moore. He used to point at me in my forehead and smack the shit out of it. Anytime I did something wrong.
Yeah.
But it was discipline.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. We don't got that now.
Listen, bro.
It's nowhere now. That's the
problem.
My mother, it's no
through the school building. That now, you go to jail.
My mother come through the school building, and you hear her from the front door. I don't give a fuck if y'all call 911, 411, 211, 311. I'ma whip his ass.
Right.
And I'm in the classroom acting like a clown, and I said, "Oh, somebody, mama finna whoop they ass, right?"
It is your butt for the whole time.
Look, she got that fucking corner, and I'm up on the board drawing dumb shit. She said, "What the fuck you doing?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Come here. You want to be a fucking class clown?" She said, "Pull your pants down." I looked at her like, "What?"
Whoa.
She said, "Don't worry about it." She snatched that fucking leather belt off so fat, man, she will wham my ass out.
Man, you the ringleader.
Oh, no. She said, "Look,
you want to be in circus? You want to be the ringleader."
She said, "Now apologize to the class."
Right.
I was so fucking embarrassed. I said, "I apologize." Look, I apologize. She said, "Say it louder."
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund.
Didn't get a chance to tune in last week? Well, here's what you missed on the Artist Exchange radio show.
Being a stage actor, how has that prepared you for comedy?
Oh, man. I think that being a thespian definitely gave me a head start and an advantage over most of the guys that just go right into comedy. I mean, it definitely helps with stage presence, memorization. Just, you know, a lot of comedians in the city, they don't consider every aspect of the performance, like what you're wearing, you know, how you say certain words, and being a stage actor, like I definitely, I'm thinking about every part of the joke when I write it or when I perform it. You know, like I try to do it as a performer without looking too stagey.
Tune in every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. and every Saturday 12 to 2 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com. This is the Artist Exchange. Real artists, real talk.
What is hood respect? Family, life, work, love. We are all from the hood and we all want respect. That's why we wear Hood Respect. Available in men's, women's, and kids. For more information and ordering options, contact Instagram at Hood Respect, Facebook to Mel Martin Sr., and email at hoodrespect.tms71@gmail.com. The look you need is Hood Respect.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
They made the promises for Walmart, not their Sanitas. But we're back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, and I'm going to have Ms. Wanda read an excerpt of her book.
Okay.
And that's the latest book.
Yes, this is my latest book called The Land of the Free. And this, you know, this, like I said, this just touches on, you know, a lot of the stereotypes that are in America. And, you know, some of these characters are people that you might know. You don't really know what a person's thinking about you. You know, they could be smiling in your face and the whole time, you know, they hate you. So, so this is chapter 1. The character's name is Mark. So, the room is buzzing with excitement as everyone sits around the round table trying to guess who was fired today. The rumor started early this afternoon, but everyone was tight-lipped about who had been escorted out of the office. Mark scans every face in the room, trying to see who's missing from the meeting. The door swings open, and the owner of the firm walks to the front of the room. "Good afternoon," he says in a raised voice to quiet everyone down. He waits until the room is silent before he continues to speak. "I know some of you may have heard that someone was escorted out of the office today. Well, the rumors are true. As of this minute, Mr. Hollis will no longer serve as the manager of this team." Silent whispers fill the room, and everyone glances uncomfortably at one another at the news. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. Colin Hollis was an exceptional manager, and because of his leadership and guidance, I was up for promotion as senior designer this year. What could he have possibly done to get fired? The conference room door swings open, and in walks a tall, dark man wearing an expensive suit. He walks to the front of the room and stands beside the owner. I'd like you all to meet Mr. Andre Mays. He will be the new head manager for the international team. Mr. Mays has over 10 years in the international architecture business and has helped design some of the most famous buildings in the world. Please help me welcome him. The room sounds with applause, but I'm barely clapping. I don't like him, and I don't like his kind. I never have. Who does he think he is walking in here with an expensive suit on like he can actually be as good as us? I don't care what his credentials are or how good the owner thinks he is. I know better. I know how they think. I know how they act and what they stand for, and I refuse to work with him. Mr. Mays introduces himself and starts to give his background, but I'm not listening. I'm too busy imagining him hanging from a tree with the noose around his neck, like the images my father used to show me. Times were great back then, back when they knew their place, back when they didn't have positions of power, back when they could be controlled. Now they think they can run shit, say what they want, and take over the country like a sewer full of rats. I won't stand for this. I won't have his kind prancing around like he owns us. I won't have him looking down on me like he's so much better. And I most definitely won't agree to be managed by a nigger.
So that's an excerpt from her latest book. Give me the title one more time.
The Land of the Free, question mark.
And we were talking during the break, and my question to her was, would she ever write a book? Because this is one of the topics, another one of the hot button topics that, like you just wrote about, race and race relationships in this country. And that sounds crazy because we haven't said that word in decades, and now we're saying it again. But a topic that is kind of closer to what my research and what I'm looking at is this idea of sexual assault and how we define it and what it means to the individual people involved. I can't get off of this last case that came out with an actor, Azizi. He's I think he was on I can't even remember at this moment the shows he was on, but he was he's an actor, an Indian actor.
Okay.
Who went on a date and the woman wasn't comfortable. She never said anything. She never told him that she wasn't comfortable. They went back to his place and they engaged in whatever. And at the end, he sent her home and she texted him, I believe, the next day and said, I wasn't comfortable. And he just said, well, I wasn't aware. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And she immediately took that to the press because he was who he was. Wow. If he was average Joe, you know, I don't think it would have gotten that big, which is a problem too. But she was uncomfortable, and she said in the text messages to him and to whoever she shared this with in the media, she gave him nonverbal cues as to what the problem is. Now, I'm not debating anybody's story because it's your story. I can't tell you whether you're right or you're wrong. What I can say is, to me, I now feel uncomfortable because now I can't be a person. Now, I'm not just looking to randomly have sex with everybody, but I am saying I am uncomfortable because what can I say? What can I not do? What do I do? How do I show affection? How do I say hello? How do I conduct a conversation without you feeling like I felt very uncomfortable during that interview? And I just felt with it now. It just feels like the same thing that happened to, you know, trans and gay individuals with the whole bathroom situation and being around children. It just feels like how do we relate anymore? We're getting to a point where we're all going to our far corners of the world and everybody's so isolated in their own home. We can't touch, we can't communicate, we can't relate to somebody. I can't say hello to you on Facebook and we're friends, because that makes me uncomfortable. That's weird. Why would you do that? Because we're friends on Facebook. That's kind of how I got that. But how does those social issues kind of, where are they on your radar at that moment? Because these are a little bit more than just social issues.
They are.
But how do you?
I kind kind of think that kind of stuff always goes on, but we only hear about it from somebody who's famous or money or something like that. That kind of stuff happens every day. You have women who are sexually assaulted every day from family, people. In that particular situation, if she was uncomfortable to begin with, you know I wouldn't go to somebody's house if I'm uncomfortable to begin with, because I'm already uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm definitely not going to the house.
Where I don't have control.
Exactly. So that situation does kind of sound like it's a little fishy if she was uncomfortable and then went to his house. Now, if she went to his house and then she started becoming uncomfortable, that's a little different. What I'll say is, a lot of people say, well, why don't women speak up? Why don't women say something? You have women who have had traumatic upbringings, or it had something happen to them when they were younger, and sometimes people shut all the way down, and they can't even utter a word when they feel that uncomfortable or when they feel like they're about to be violated again. It's a complete shutdown. You ever heard of, or you ever seen a situation where there's a young girl and she turns mute? I honestly think that happened to Oprah. Was it Oprah or Maya Angelou? Maya, where she was mute for a while because she was assaulted. And so,
the person who assaulted her was killed, and she felt as if her telling on him caused his death.
So she shut all the way down.
Right.
So you have
traumatic. This is a traumatic incident.
Exactly. So women who don't speak up and all, you don't know what happened to them in the past to cause them to kind of just shut down and be like, oh gosh, I'm uncomfortable. I want to say something, but I can't. What if he kills? You don't know what's going on in that woman's mind. But there are women who are just out for, you know, the TV time, the money, things like that. And those women make it harder for the women who really have a story to tell.
Right.
And with that being said, these men that are in positions of power and who have the title and who have the money, you know, they feel as though they're God. They can get away with it. They can hire top-notch lawyers, you know, to defend them when you've got little old Wanda who might work a meany little 9-to-5 or something, who can barely afford a lawyer. You know, how are you going to go up against that?
And I'm always, I like to write, but it has to come in a moment. Like, I'll get a surge every now and again, and I'll like type something into my memo on my phone or something, or write it down. But in terms of being an author, are these things popping up, or do they feel like triggers, or it has to come from a different place for you? In terms of inspiration versus, you know, does it affect you, or be like, oh, I've got to write about this?
Some things, yes. So my first series, Secrets, Lies, and the Cover-Up, it actually talks about sex trafficking.
Oh, wow.
Because that's an issue that isn't talked about a lot. So I touch on that because it's a social issue that isn't necessarily really social. Like, you hear about it sometimes, but it's much bigger.
Popular, or
it's much bigger than what people think.
Right.
There's a whole black market for stuff like that. So
in our area.
Yeah.
Like right
I
here.
definitely wanted to touch on that. This book, I had to write about some of this stuff because I was just, you know, and that's why in the back I say some might not get while I wrote this book. I said, if you're one of those people, do me a favor and go to any article that deals with race, politics, and just read some of the comments. And then you'll see why I wrote it. You know, social issues don't go away by just sitting back saying, oh, everybody's not like that. We know that. But certain things you need to be discussed.
Or they don't go away when the likes stop or the hashtag stop being used.
But everything else is just, I just kind of write what I feel like writing in that moment. Like, I don't actually write on a tablet. I just sit in front of the laptop. I just let it flow. And whatever comes to mind is what I write.
So how do you decide, like, what goes in a book versus, I'm going to just keep this as a journal, or put this story to the side until it becomes... like, in the bullet points that you go over in this book, The Land of the Free.
Yes.
So how did you choose what topics you would talk about?
Well, I chose those topics because at the time, everything on my Facebook timeline was about Trump. Everything was about race.
Right.
Everything was about politics, Democrats, Republicans. And then I saw a lot of stuff about homosexuality, just the kind of the state of the black man. How a lot of the shows we're watching, the black men are dressed as women and are playing feminine roles. So that's where the homosexuality came into play. This man, at the risk of his
relationship. Do you feel like it was an agenda? Well, I don't want to ask you personally because you saw it and you wrote about the perspective that you saw it, but it wasn't necessarily your perspective that you were writing about. But like in terms of that, and I've been, that falls under that category of like toxic masculinity and all that.
Yeah.
So how does that one subject matter? How did you want to tap into that? Or I'll ask you the bigger question: how do you write about topics like that without infusing your opinion of it in there and just being subjective? So this is the topic. These are the facts. This is what is out there.
Yeah.
Without it necessarily everything being Wanda's point of view.
Well, I tell from both sides.
Okay.
So you won't know my point of view.
Okay.
Because Mark is racist. He hates black people. But then you have Sheldon, who's a black man, who his parents are Black Panthers, and they teach him, we don't trust them. They're no good. And so you have black people who hate white people. You have a Trump supporter in here. You have someone who hates Trump. So I tell both sides of the fence. I have my beliefs and what I think and all, but I don't necessarily put my stuff in writing all the time because I'm just private like that. To me, it's really nobody's business what. I mean, people I talk to and, you know, friends and...
But in terms of putting it in a book and just presenting your opinion, that's not what you necessarily are going for.
That's not what I'm necessarily going for at this moment.
Okay. Is that how, I mean, outside of you just being private, how important is that for you to maintain, look, I'm just presenting the case here.
It's very important. I have a job. That job pays the bills. It takes care of my daughter. And, you know, I would never do anything to jeopardize, you know, anything like that. So I keep a lot of my opinions and feelings separate. I'm very client-facing. I deal with wealthy clients. So I just, you know, I always try to be cautious with who Lewanda is and my pseudonym L.R. Jackson.
Okay.
That's another reason why I have a pseudonym. You know, I don't want things easily, you know, tracked to me because I keep my life separate from my career. And, you know, things that I talk about and things I want to shed light on, I'll pop it in a book, but it won't be in a way where, you know, you necessarily feel like that's my opinion. And it really ain't none of your business about what my opinion is. Do
you want to get to a point where you're sitting on the other side of that table and you're able to totally, I don't want to say be yourself because you're being yourself, but not have that fear of a 9-to-5 career?
Oh, absolutely. I'm fortunate enough where I love my career. You know, I love what I do. And I'm just grateful to be where I've always wanted to be. But at the same time, I'm working for somebody else. You know, my goal is to work for myself and create generational wealth for my baby. So, you know, she can have that generational wealth for her kids and her kids and her kids. I'm trying to leave a legacy to be passed down, you know, from generation to generation. So that's the end goal. You know, yes, I would love to get to a point where I make a lot of money or turn some of these books into scripts. But in saying that, the goal isn't necessarily just to become rich or have the money. The goal is to keep the money going. You know, that's my goal. Yes, I'm trying to make it where it's a dynasty, so to speak. You know, it's passed down from generation to generation, and that my assets are protected so that, you know, my daughter can use some of that stuff to do things that she wants to do.
So, without necessarily disclosing what you, I mean, you shared with us before what you do during the daytime.
Yeah.
How can you help, I'm not, without giving you a title, individuals understand, because dealing with a trust is really securing what I've been able to amass and being able to safely transfer that and just allocate that over time versus me writing my heir this check and then they blowing it.
Well, you definitely don't want to write a check. Basically, basically what I do, I work in the estate planning business. So not only am I, you know, dealing with wealthy clients, you're helping them plan their estate. Right. So anytime you give somebody something outright, if I'm saying here's a check for $200,000, it's going to be taxed heavily. But if you put that in a trust, you know, you're going to put that principal in, and over time, the income is just going to build and build and build and build and build over time. So that $200,000 is going to grow and grow and grow. If you put it in a trust that's irrevocable, meaning you cannot change it and you cannot pull money from it. That's the best one.
Or it's announced to you over time versus...
Yeah. It all depends on what you write in the document. If you create a trust where you try to use it like a bank account, like if it's like a Rev Trust for you, and you're saying, I want to be able to call and get money anytime I want. Anytime you do that, that's taxed to you.
Right.
So that's...
the receiver.
Yes. But if you're putting it in an IREV trust, and now the trustee becomes the owner of the assets, but they have the discretion to give you money based off of your, it's called health, education, maintenance, and supports, HIMSS. And they have the ability to give you money at their discretion, meaning let's see how much money she's gotten so far. Let's see what job she has. Does she deserve it? Then you can get that money and it's not taxed. And when you die, you know, you still have your wealth that can be passed down to your children.
And it's still been noted, ear note.
Right, and it's protected from creditors. You know, you have your asset protection trust. You got so many trusts that you can do. You have marital trusts, you know, just different things. You just got to be smart about your money.
So that we're seeing different aspects of one that come out. In the next segment when we come back, I'm going to have a read from her, excerpt from her other book as well, and then talk about this new book of telling us how to build our wealth. So we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement. Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know you're probably just a little bit nervous. You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up! Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund.
Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that. Cool! That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard?
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Because I'm choosing to suffer through this to make a way tomorrow, and not really, I'm going to pay my bills, stack my money, have the nice apartment that I want, a nice car, you know, be able to go to Miami for spring, you know, those things that, and for me, I'm glad I caught it when I caught it, but those things are important to me.
Right.
You know, Miami is going to be Miami.
Right.
Regardless of whether I go there or not.
And that's all that matters. It's what's important to you.
Right.
You know, you can't give up on your dream and what you want to do.
Right.
Especially because somebody else says so. Like, you have to stay the course, and the harder you work, it'll pay off for you. And I look at it like this. I may not be a bestseller, and none of my books may not turn into movies in this lifetime. I don't know what my daughter could do with my stuff. So there has to be a bigger picture.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Look at a lot of people who now, you know, August Wilson struggled to get his work seen, and he tapped into a market that got him, you know, going up into his death.
Yeah.
And now his work is equivalent to Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And now Denzel has taken his work and is going to create a whole legacy of movies. Right. And he may have wanted all these things. It didn't happen in his lifetime, but it's happening to his estate now.
Exactly. So just stay the course and it's creating a legacy, whether it happens when you're alive or you're dead. Now, obviously, we want it to happen while we're alive.
But I can enjoy it.
But if I have to struggle now and it not happen in order for my baby to be okay, I'll do whatever I got to do.
Right.
If I know that my struggle right now with this is going to pay off for her in the future, then by all means.
I want us to get to a point where we redefine what financial literacy is, because to me, financial literacy isn't necessarily buying Bitcoins or going and get all these term life insurance policies and trying to sell them or get, you know, the get rich quick. That's not necessarily financial literacy.
Right.
And I see what's wrong, and because I'm not an expert in that field, it's kind of hard for me to talk about it with people. But I just know for myself, I want to get to a place, and I say this all the time, I just want to go to the market because it's Wednesday. Not because the money is there or the check cleared or... You know, I'm hungry today. I want to go and get some whatever I want to eat today.
It's 3 parts to me.
Right.
Financial literacy to me is, first of all, how do you obtain your wealth? There's so many different avenues you could take in order to obtain wealth. And wealth isn't always necessarily money. It could be
universal.
Assets. It could be property.
Right.
You know, which ultimately lead to money. But And then how to manage all of that. You can acquire it, but you have to know how to manage it, how to keep it running smoothly, how to keep the income coming in. And then thirdly, how to ensure that at your death, your money, your assets, your property is going to continue to grow and is going to be protected.
I'll add a footnote to that. However you get your wealth, whether it's the secret or Avon or Mary Kay or, you know, I know a lot of people do those things, but whatever your source is, it has to be for you. You can't do it because Rich Dad Poor Dad told you to do it. You can't do it because this guru, it worked for them. Because chances are, if they're selling you on an idea, it didn't work for them. Because they're selling you on the idea of it working.
And you have to believe in it. If you don't believe in a product and you're not passionate about it, you're not going to make the money. If you're just looking at it like, I'm trying to get rich because I seen this person, he earns $2 million every year. Well, guess what? He probably worked his ass off. I'm sorry.
You good. You
okay.
Good. It's online. It's online. No
I didn't know if you was going to cut it or bleep it out.
You good.
He probably worked his ass off to get where he's at because he believes in the product. You can't be a brand if you don't believe in it.
I'm going to throw out the names, and it's not to bash them, but it's that, what do they call it? Horizontal marketing.
You're talking about like the kind of like the peer stuff, whereas
that's not.
I don't know much about
one for me because if it's not something I love, I can't sell it. I don't. I don't want to sell it because then it becomes another punch in for me. That becomes another 9 to 5, and that's not what I want. Because you're still at some point making somebody else's dream come true. You know, I remember I've tried to sell Melaleuca, Avon. I have a couple family members that had the pink Cadillac, and I was like, I can do this. I remember Avon. All Avon did for me was gain me a lot of women over the age of 50 friends. That's all it did for me because I was that young dude in college selling Avon.
But if you sold Avon because you once used the product, you used the facial cream. Let's say you used the facial cream.
Right.
And that facial cream had your skin glowing, had you looking like bam. Guess what? When you do sell it, you're going to be 15 times more better than the college student who's just looking to get paid.
Like, I never used this stuff.
That's why you didn't like it. You're like,
I don't use.
So how could you properly sell something you never used?
Because I was the young dude.
Exactly.
And I understood that then, but I just kept saying, I can't do this.
But the people who are up here that really make the money from Avon, they use the product. They love it. They stand behind it. So when they sell it, it shows. I do. I'm serious. I don't really know much. I've never done the pyramid stuff.
Because it's more about getting you to work under me. That's where it becomes like.
It does, but there are successful people who make a lot of money, but it's because of the effort and the work that they put in.
But that's their lane.
It is.
And it's not about the product. What they're physically doing for people is their lane. My mother used to have these home interior parties where, you know, the accessories.
I remember those.
And I remember this lady named Miss Betsy Queen was the only person my mother ever did her parties with. Like, Betsy Queen became like an extended aunt to me. And Betsy Queen was like, she was home interior. She would come into the house with the fur on, and she had her set up. And she would talk about it, and she knew when my mother had invited people who was going to buy versus that was just going to sit there and look at the pretty pictures. So her whole demeanor would adjust to the client she had, and she always walked out of my mother's house with a sale. My mother always walked away with product because she was able to sell. And I was sitting there like, how is she? But it was what she was. Betsy Queen was her name, and she became that person. But I was like, then I tried to do those things when I was younger. So I was like, I was ahead of the curve. None of my friends were thinking about Avon. You know, we didn't even use Avon. So how do we get through this and how do we, you know, but it wasn't my lane. and I had to stick to my lane. So I didn't want to do things to get rich.
Yeah.
That was not a part of me, because then I'm gonna spend 30 years doing that.
Yeah.
And I got the money, or not, or I'm just miserable again. You know, and I might as well just clocked in at Popeyes and just was a manager.
I learned early on that wasn't for me. I did try to sell knives in college. They gave us these, I think they were called Cutco knives or something.
Okay, yeah.
They were these
They're
knives
like colorful or something?
Yeah, they never get dull and all this stuff. So they give me this suitcase of knives and we do this whole class about it. You're supposed to go out and sell it. And I'm in this person's home with these knives. They're like a few $100s. And, you know, they're asking questions, and I'm thinking, hell, if I know, I wasn't paying attention in the class. Like, you
just memorized that spew that they gave you.
You know, all I know is they cut good, there's a warranty, and they're pretty. Now, do you want the knives or not?
I've tried it all. So would you ever write this book? Would that be a book in your interpretation of what a financial literacy is? Because there's so many different opinions of what that word means or that phrase means.
Yeah.
But from your perspective of what you do and where your mind goes, would you ever write that type of book?
I don't know. I haven't written anything that's
because that's so other side of the brain.
Yeah. And there's so many other aspects to it that I'm not. Yes, I deal in wealth management, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an attorney, let alone an estate planning attorney. So there's so many different moving pieces in managing wealth. You know, you need your advisor, your attorney, your tax person. I work with all of these people to kind of keep everything running.
That would be, that's the perspective that I haven't heard. Because, again, I've bought a lot of those books, and, like, I'm going to find my secrets of wealth in this book, and that was just $90 I just wasted.
But when you get the wealth, you must see an attorney, number one. You know, what do you want to do with the wealth? You need to draft something. You don't want to necessarily do a will, because, like I say, you don't want to be giving assets outright. You know, it's better to see. Because
that's when it becomes tax.
Yeah, it's tax heavily. You basically want to see an estate planning attorney. You know, you want to have a financial advisor. If you do create a trust, that company already has the advisor that does all that stuff for you. They invest the money into assets, and depending on what your income objective, your investment objective is, that's how they invest it. So if you're looking for long-term generational wealth, they might invest it in kind of like a growth plan where the money grows over time. If you're older, when you get the money, of course they're going to want to invest it where it kind of grows faster than, you know, a 19-year-old. A 19-year-old in an advisor's mind, they have time for their money to grow. But if you're 60 years old and you hit the lottery and you want to put your money in a trust and you want it to grow, you're not going to have the same amount of years as a 19-year-old, so they might take your money and invest it a little more aggressively depending on, you know, what you're trying to do. But the point is, you have these people that are held to a high fiduciary standard to ensure that your money's protected and that it grows. Because if they don't, you can sue them. So their standard is it's probably like one of the highest.
So if my money don't grow in a certain amount of time, I could go back and sue them?
No, but if you invest somebody's money improperly, you can.
So what determines improperly?
It's all in the document. The attorney drafts all that.
Okay.
And you have certain duties. So, and that's all explained in the document as well. So let's say you're a financial advisor and you have an uncle who owns a medicine company. You take this client's money and you invest it heavily in your uncle's medicine company, knowing that your uncle owns it. You get what I'm saying? Things like that. So there's certain
and that stuff like that happens?
Stuff like that I haven't ever seen. I mean, it happens, but I haven't seen it.
So you normally get them once that stuff like that already happens, or
by the time I get an account, the document's already been drafted or close to it. We know what kind of trust it's going to be. We know how much money is going to be in there. We know who the advisor is going to be. We know who the tax person is going to be. We know what the end goal is going to be. Like, we have all this information. And so basically my job is for the overall administration of this trust from the time that we have it. This trust could stay with the company forever, or they could decide to fire us and hire a new trustee if the document says so. They might not be happy with the company.
You're a bank for their paperwork.
We are
the maintenance of it.
Not just the paperwork, but the assets are held at the bank as well. Okay. So, because I process wires and checks when people ask for money, we send money out. It's so many moving parts to what I do. It's ridiculous. It's
so
crazy.
It would be really hard for you to just write a book simply on financial wealth from the perspective that you get to see, because you need so much more needs to happen for them to even get to you. Yeah. But do you have any pointers for people to? I'm making $9 an hour. I just had 2 babies. Is there anything that you can speak to them? I mean, looking from this perspective, and they're always like not even at the starting line yet to building that wealth.
I think the most important thing is you have to know what you can afford. If you're making $9 an hour and you have 2 children, you may want to have your own place and your own car and things because you're an adult. But if it's not feasible, if you know that getting your own place and your own car is going to put you in a situation where you can't put food on the table for your children, you might have to suck it up and live with mom for the next 6 months until, or you know what I mean? I'm just saying, you gotta figure out, what do I bring home? What do I bring home? And then once you figure out what you bring home, then you gotta figure out, okay, now what do I need? Most people need a car, unless you live
in the city.
If you live in the city, I think people who are raised in the city are blessed. I didn't have subways and stuff like that. You had to have a car to get to work, or you just didn't go. Right. If you called a cab back then, oh Lord, there wasn't Uber or anything like that. So it was hitching a ride. Hey, can you take me to work? Or you had to have a car. But do you need a car right now? Can you catch the subway and stuff to and from work? Right. Do I have to have my own place, or can I stay with somebody to save my money? And if I have to have my own place, can I do an efficiency right now? Can I do a 1-bedroom? What do I need? And then once you're done with the need part, then you can kind of move on to, what can I...
Because you saved money at that point.
Right. And then you can kind of gradually go. And if you know that the $9 that you're making isn't cutting it, then you have to create a plan where you can make it. Okay, this job ain't paying the bills. Does it make sense to get another job? Who's going to keep the kids if I get another job? Or should I just get, a whole nother job making more money? Everybody can't work 2 jobs. Because
you got a child.
Yeah, if you're a parent,
Because that automatically means child care or extended child care, which is much more expensive.
And find something, for everybody out there listening, find something that you can do that you're passionate about, that's wanted, and that can earn money for you. So many people out there are so talented in so many different ways, but when you're trying to feed your kids and you're working, you put your own stuff on hold. I was guilty of that. But if you sing, I was just in LA, I saw people at the Santa Monica Pier singing on the pier, and I happened to look down at the little cup, and I was like, holy shit. Like, you see all this money this woman got? And she's just singing on the pier. And I bet you she works. But because she has a beautiful voice, she's able to use that to get extra income. So think about a talent or something you have
that's already attached to you.
Exactly, that can generate some extra income for you to pay the bills. If you could be an artist, you could be an author, you could even just motivational speaking. People pay big bucks for that stuff. If you have a story, like legit have a story that so many people can relate to, you can get paid to go around and speak. All you got to do, just start reaching out to churches and different centers that have underprivileged kids and things like that. you know, the more your name gets out there, then you can start getting money for that. Not saying that, you know, you only want to tell your story for money. But
no,
but you get what I'm saying.
But you have that blessing for a reason.
Exactly.
You have that gift for a reason, and I think that's a lot of the, myself included, everybody that I meet, it becomes now, what do I do? And now you're pulling at strings that are outside of yourself in order to get to where you want to get to, because you're trying to survive. And I was guilty of this because I was young. You know, I had a quote unquote real job when I was 16, became a manager by 17. So I felt like I had to, by the time I had left that job at like 19, I was like, I got a savings, and I was able to actually live off of that for a while, because being a manager, like at a fast food chain, you don't realize how much money they actually make because they're giving so many of their hours away. And I was young, and I lived at home, so I didn't need the money. My mother never was like, you're going to give me this. So I didn't really, and I was going to school. I was being an artist. I was working, so I didn't need the money. I mean, I started shopping on eBay. That was my outlet, eBay. But other than that, I was able to save the money, not knowing what I was doing. It wasn't purposely, because if I had time, that money would have been gone. But I started like the routine of going on vacations. Oh, I gotta go to Miami because that's the thing to do. I'm going to Atlanta, or I'm going to spend a day, and so I started doing those things, and it started developing bad habits. So the moment I became just a full-time artist, I did not change my lifestyle. So that kind of is what the downfall was. But in terms of being having all this information, how do you want to move forward with it in terms of really branding yourself as a full business, or you want the authorship to be, I didn't say shit, it came out as authorship, but I heard it when it came out, but and being an author, do you want that to be your primary brand, or do you want to market out? Because just sitting here talking to you, you have so much beyond just being an author to give. So do you see that being the brand?
Probably not. Just because I work, that's what I do all day. But, I have no issues answering questions or pointing people in the right direction. But it's not something that I would probably touch on a lot. Because it's just, it's what I do every day. Like when I come home, that part shuts off, or I try to shut it off. So the problem, with my situation, with my position, I have a BlackBerry and I have a laptop that I'm required to bring home with me every night when I leave the office. So sometimes my days don't always shut off at 5. But when it's 6:30ish or something, and I power off that BlackBerry and I shut that laptop down, I kind of shut down that whole situation. You know what I mean? Like, work is over with. I can write on her and what she's doing, and you know what I mean? And I don't really think about it, until the next morning when So it's probably not something that I would, really touch on. People do ask.
Tell me what to do with my money.
So, and I'm not an expert either. I see things that, I see things that happen, and I see how people are able to, make smart decisions and all. In that situation.
So, describe to me your brand in terms of being an author. So, what is your brand? How are you building that wealth for yourself outside of course, working, but...
Well, the author side is just the stepping stone. What I really wanted to do was produce movies and scripts and things of that nature.
Well, I am an actor and a director.
Yes. So the books, that's just a stepping stone for me to tell the stories. But the end goal is really for these stories to become movies. So the brand really is going to be, the books, the stories, even a production company. I've sat my daughter down and I've gone over the entire business plan of what I'm trying to do, why I'm trying to do it. And if mommy dies tomorrow and you can imagine she's 15. When I said that, she's like, Mom, no, you can't say stuff like that.
Because we don't see our friends getting older, so that's
yeah,
not something we
she thinks I'm Superwoman. She's like, well, Mom, you are Superwoman.
Right, that's the goal.
But I tell her that because I'm like, if Mommy dies tomorrow, you need to know how to carry this on.
Okay.
And you need to know that when somebody approaches you with a $5,000 check to buy the rights to your mother's work, that's not the move you want to make.
That's not it.
Yeah, so I've taught her about royalties, residuals, what it is I'm doing, what she's going to need to know, people she'll need to get in contact with to keep this going. That's how I've kind of planned my generational wealth now. Because she's only 15, I can't really say, first of all, I haven't obtained the amount of wealth that I want to with this. That's number one. And then number two, even if I did, at 15, I could teach her some stuff, but at the end of the day, she's 15.
Did she show signs of wanting to be an author herself, or be in that vein of carrying on your legacy without saying hiring somebody to be able to do it, versus that's what she want to do?
She hasn't expressed, she's very good at writing, just from like school and short stories and things of that nature. But she wants to be an actress.
Okay.
And
so you have your first two actors.
Yeah, she wants to be an actress, and you know, she wants to move to LA. That's why we just came back from there. That's been a dream of her.
She likes the sun. Okay.
She does. So that's what she wants to do, and I've taught her how all this can tie into what it is that she wants to do. So
it really is, and I think more parents should prepare their children that way. And it's hard. I'm not saying you should be admonished for not doing that, because it never happened to me, I don't know to do that. But I think it should be encouraged for more parents to begin to give children that strategic planning, even if it's just moving out. Because naturally, when we moved out, that first couple, I say the first couple months, maybe year for me, you clean like your mom or dad cleaned, and you got up when they got up, and you had that routine. Why not carry that over into the business world? Because then they saw what you did. And they got up and worked their job until they were tired of it, and then... Yeah,
and I have to go over it again as she gets older, but I've definitely, taught her about, copyrights, stuff like that. Yeah, just pretty much keeping Mommy's legacy protected. The difference with what makes it hard for me is that, so I went to college, I have 3 degrees, and so I'm looking at my daughter like, what are you going to go to college for? And she's like, oh, well, I'm going to move to LA because I want to be an actress. And I'm like, no, don't do that. How about you go to college, major in accounting and business like Mommy did, and then you can do acting. And then I had to realize you can't tell her what,
Well, I would say encourage her to at least go to school for what she wants to do. And a lot of people like, it's kind of pointless to have a degree in acting, but it's not, because a lot of these European actors are now coming over here because they have the training. The reason this person can get paid more than Monique is because she has the training. And she has that. People for a long time felt like that piece of paper did not matter, especially if you're anything in fine arts or the arts realm. But the reason somebody like Saturday Night Live can be so inclusive is because those people trained for what they want. And even if she's not going to a university, which I know you don't ever want to think about that, but if it's a conservatory, train for what you want. Even if it's not, that's my regret for me was I went to school and I learned these things, but I did not necessarily focus on the training. And I got a lot of the training because I went to school to be an actor, but I did not focus on the craft of what I was doing. I was naturally good at it, so it just came out naturally for me to have that personality to be an actor and an artist. But the training has come in these years and learning the hard way. So just think, if I can give her any knowledge, if that's what you want, show me in your training.
I just wasn't a fan of fine arts. I just was like, no, like just get a degree in something that'll get you. She had been asking to model since she was little, and I kept saying no. And so then finally I got her headshots. I did it, and she was really good at it. She was booking jobs and going on so many auditions. And I was like, wow.
But see, gone is the time where we can go to school, get a job, and major in that.
Yeah.
Those days are gone because those jobs don't exist the way they did. So if I'm going to end up being a dancer, I need to right now train as one. And the trust needs to be there back and forth. Just speaking as a child to a parent.
Yeah.
Trust that she's going to find what she really wants.
Yeah.
But if she doesn't have the training, she'll be 20-something going into that field with a bunch of people who have trained to be there.
Right.
And that is when the gap happens for us, as especially black people.
Right.
The gap happens there because we're naturally good at things, so we don't have the training that gets us into the door, and that's the gap. So we're going to take our last break, and we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on Be Exposed Radio, before Mr. Eric has a colliption.
It's time for flashback.
Now I'm not gonna say all Aries don't know.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Are you thinking about getting your GED diploma? Well, here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a number of pep talks that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You know that feeling? People look at you and don't believe in you.
You want some gentle encouragement. Then you're on your way to your GED diploma and a better life.
But I know they're probably just a little bit nervous. You can find it in yourself to take that first step.
You can improve your future. You can do this. I know you can.
You need to start pushing yourself.
Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up! Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need to get your GED diploma, we've got a pep talk that's right for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and find free GED classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
We're now listening to Just a Bit Outside, the sports radio show at BeExposedRadio.com. Come join us every Monday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, or BeExposedRadio.com.
So we had a lot of things going on.
Mother's Day, Major League Baseball, pink bats, pink outfits.
Yeah. They certainly did the mothers good. They don't show them justice. Like Jimmy said, the pink bats, cleats, all types of pink highlights in the major leagues. The Orioles were swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Wah, wah.
The Kansas City Royals. Thank you, Eric. Kansas City Royals is they're like one of the worst teams in the Major League Baseball right now. Yeah, so that was a little tough.
Yeah, so the Orioles no longer have.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. Again, I apologize for everybody that was trying to call in. We had some issues with the phone line, so I do apologize. But we're here every Friday at 7, every Saturday at 12, so you can always call back in, become a follower of the show. So I do apologize again. I apologize in the first place. But we have Miss Wanda Jackson here with us. She's an author. She's written 9 books now, or is that the 10th book? That's nine books in total.
Yes.
And she is here with us interviewing and just talking about herself and talking about her book. She read an excerpt from The Land of the Free.
Question mark.
And she has another book she's going to read an excerpt from.
Okay.
And we'll get another taste of her writings and her perspective.
So this book is called The Mistaken Twin.
No, you're not a twin, are you?
I'm not a twin. I wanted twins at one point, but then I had the first one. I was like, nah.
I have twin nieces. Oh, if you can help it.
But they're so cute.
They are. Wait till they start talking.
I know. So this is so their names. So the twins. There's Morgan and there's Monroe. So this is just a small excerpt. I stare ahead at the pure white casket trimmed in gold that's holding my twin sister's body inside. I'm still unable to wrap my head around the fact that the other half of me is gone. The church is filled with friends and loved ones, all there to pay their respects, and it warms my heart to know that so many people cared enough to say goodbye. Jason squeezes my hand slightly as a way of offering me comfort while I sniffle and wipe away my tears with a tissue. My tearful eyes meet his sympathetic ones, and he gives me a reassuring nod that everything will be okay. Jason is every woman's dream guy. He's hardworking, charming, and super good-looking with his deep dimples, dark brown eyes, and smooth chestnut skin. He's at the height of his career as the owner of one of the top private investigating and security firms in L.A. He's protective, loving, and he treats me like a queen. It's a shame that I could never find a man like him on my own. He's everything I could ever want in a husband, but he really isn't my husband. He's my sister's husband. And it isn't me that's lying in the casket at the front of the church. It's her. Only he doesn't know it. He has no clue that Monroe and I switched places so she could run off with her lover, and that he's been living with his wife's twin sister all this time. I never understood why Monroe felt the need to sleep around on Jason. He worshipped the ground she walked on. She had the perfect life, but she took it for granted. In her mind, it was better to be free and unattached instead of being confined as a housewife. She wanted to explore her options and see what sex was like outside of the man she had been with since the 11th grade. She felt the constant urge to feel liberated, and it cost her her life.
Wow, that sounds... Wow. So is that going to be the first play to movie to TV show?
I always have a hard time deciding. I have 3 young ladies that have read every single book that I've written, like as soon as it comes out. My sister, her name's Brandy, Brandy Gordy. She reads everything. She's an avid reader, but she reads everything. And my very good friend, Rocky, and then another friend of mine named Millie. So the 3 of them, they read all my work. And I asked the 3 of them, which book would make the best movie? And the 3 of them all said A Fatal Love Affair. That book is about the hit woman. You don't see a lot of... It's funny because Taraji Henson just came out with the movie. But before that, Proud Mary. Yeah. But before that, you didn't see like movies and books and things of like, you know, a black hit woman. So I had did a book based off of, you know, a woman who, she's a hit woman. Her uncle's like a mobster. And they all feel like that would be, out of all my books, that's it. My mom, on the other hand, she still can't get past my first book. That's like her favorite book, her all-time book. She thinks that one is. But I can never... That one's Secrets, Lies, and the Cover-Up. Okay. So, but I can never choose because each book is dear to me because of different reasons. And to be honest, I think it would depend on what market you're trying to... If you're going to do a movie, if you're trying to capture, you know, let's say Lonely Housewives or something, then I would have a book for that, or women who would... You know what I mean? So, but I can never decide on which one.
Are you going to write the script for those, or are you going to outsource that to some actual playwright?
I don't know.
Or screenwriter, I'm sorry.
I thought about it. I'm so protective with my work that I don't know. They would have to put up with me. I'll say that. If I outsourced it, I'm very particular. I'm very, very, you know, when it comes to detail of my work, and just to put that trust in somebody to make sure that they were able to capture what you're trying to capture. You know, I don't know how that relationship, they might end up being like, I can't take you. Like, yeah, I'm not doing it. Forget it. I wanted to help you, but you're just too much. So, I kind of started researching on how to write the stuff myself, and then maybe when I connect to some people, I can say, how does this script look? Like, what do I need to do different? Like, I'm a firm believer in anything I want to do. I feel like I owe it to myself to research it and know how to do it myself, so that when somebody else falls through, I'm not scrounging around trying to find somebody. Oh, now I got to find another person and pay more money. You know, I can know how to do it myself and still outsource it. And then when it's not done right, I can say, yeah, that's not done right. You know, something like that. I just hate being totally
don't be that person. Because speaking as somebody, I direct, and I'm working with several writers, and it could be not so much a headache, but it definitely is harder because that shows that you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
And then it's trusting that somebody has a point of view that's going to be askew. So if you read The Color Purple versus seeing the movie versus seeing the play, there are 3 different perspectives, and 3 different people wrote for each one of those mediums.
Yeah.
So Toni Morrison, I'm quite sure she had a specific point of view in following the story, but the person who wrote the movie versus the person who wrote the play had a different perspective that they were able to portray and actually physically show you in the 2 later movies in the play, but know what you want.
Yeah.
Because it's going to change depending on the medium that you choose, whether it's TV, film versus Netflix versus this or that, or if it's just a stage play or if it's a full-length movie. Like, depending on what it is, because there are physical things that writers write that you can't show the exact same way that you envisioned it at your typewriter.
But I think if the person is passionate about the story, I think it'll be, like, take Queen Sugar, for instance. It was a book. Right. Ava DuVernay she was very passionate. Like, she read the book, she loved it, and she was passionate about it. So therefore, now we've got this amazing show, Queen Sugar, because of her
But when you read the book versus seeing Ava DuVernay's perspective of it, it's still 2 totally different things.
Is.
And then the actor comes in and breathes something that even the writer didn't see.
Yeah.
So it will change. So being open to change. Is kind of.
I'm open to change. It's more so.
You don't want to totally be another story.
Yes.
Right.
It can't be another story. You know, it has to at least touch on the key points of the story. And I don't want to change, especially if it did make it to a HullyWood or something. I don't want anybody trying to change my characters. I have different characters. But if my character is black, I want my character to remain black. Well, I don't want you trying to alter it.
It's certain things like I deal in plays. That's the world that I live in. I'm a stage actor. So a lot of the scripts that I see that are from a publishing company being sold to an individual producer, there are rules that go into them. Like they have to be typecast. They have to. This character has to be dark skinned versus. So those rules can be written into the contracts, but being open in terms of interpretation.
Yeah, I'm open to that.
And loosely interpreting it.
Yeah.
And I think just advice, just in going forward, depending on what medium you are, choose the medium that you want. If you want TV, you want film, you want stage, start looking at those, like, really heavily going to see them, whether it's good, bad, ugly, stupid, rich, poor. Go look at them, but don't look at them to be entertained. Start really dissecting continuity versus the flow, the rhythm. Start looking at those. So I go to movies now, and I can't really even be entertained because I'm looking at that bowl was not there, and you should have kept the bowl there, or they still haven't eaten off that plate, like certain things like that. So, but don't get into the details in terms of that, but start looking at it in terms of the writing, the content. Because as you write the script, then you'll be able to flow. And not trying to mimic anything. But just the framework never changes. You know, how to do something never changes. But just your interpretation, how to fit it into that box is what changes. So, again, I'm really thankful that we had Ms. Wanda here today.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing what comes forth from all this creativity that we've seen so far.
I have 3 things in the works that I'm super excited about.
So that means she's coming back.
I am. I have the Call Girl is coming out soon. Obviously, the name tells it all. That's probably my most racy work.
She could be a telephone operator.
Oh yeah, it's racy. Then I have a Royal Queen. That's a story about a black queen.
Okay.
And then I have a story I'm working on that's called Confinement.
Right.
And this book is dedicated to my father, who spent 12 years in federal prison. And just dedicated to you know, men in prison in everywhere. So that's going to be coming as well.
So give us your social media site because we're a little over time. So
okay.
Go.
Facebook is Lewanda Jackson, Lewanda Jackson, and Instagram Maryland Girl 1979 at MD Girl 1979.
Okay. So that's been another edition of the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Don't forget, next Friday we'll be live broadcasting from the Art of Truth / topic toxic masculinity. So that's where we at. So stay tuned, stay locked in for that. This has been another edition of the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Next, coming up in a few hours, the Come Up Radio Show with Miss Mimi Howard. Thank you.
I've been through a whole lot of things in my life, you know, a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And at the time when it was all happening, it seems like you're in a whirlwind or a tornado, or you just feel like it will never stop. But once you begin to fall on your knees and give your eyes and your ears only to the man upstairs, that is when he begins to speak to you, and you realize that everything he takes us through is necessary. No, it doesn't feel good in that time, and it's not what you want to go through. But it's not our plan, and it's not our life. He is the creator. Our lives were destined before we were even born. So he takes us through things and allows us to see things, hear things, because it's all necessary, 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 necessary.